Welcome to our Lunch and Learn. I am so excited. My name is Daphne. I'm with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Tarrant County. And it is certainly my pleasure to welcome Jennifer with Girls Inc. So welcome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me for the next few minutes. Wow, we have been on a roller coaster of sorts over the last 6 months. So both Jennifer and I have the pleasure of leading nonprofits here in Tarrant County, really serving the community, serving young people. And we are very similar in our organizations, but different too. And so what we'd like to do is provide an opportunity for community members to learn a little bit more about the last few months, but really more specifically about how young people are facing return to school and how COVID-19, the coronavirus, is affecting really some of our most vulnerable youth. And so I'm really honored to have this conversation with you, Jennifer, and talk a little bit more about how all of us together can make this really difficult period of time a little bit easier for young people. So just before I get started, Jennifer, is there anything you'd like to share about Girls Inc. and what you guys do for the community?
Sure. Thank you, Daphne. It's an honor to be here, and it's been an honor to partner with Daphne to really amplify our missions and make sure that all youth, children and teens, were being served and were safe over the last several months. When we work together, we are definitely stronger. Girls Inc. of Tarrant County is part of a national network. Our mission is to inspire all girls to be strong, smart, and bold. We do that by providing programs that ensure that girls are healthy, that they're educated, and that they grow up to be economically independent. We serve girls ages 5 through 18 years old, and a little bit different than the Boys and Girls Clubs. We are not center-based, so we partner a lot in the community with organizations like the Boys and Girls Clubs or with our school districts, where we go in and provide programs for the girls where they are. So as you can imagine, delivering our mission over the last several months has been extra challenging, and ensuring that our children are safe and healthy has been an extra challenge without having that space available. So thank you again for having me, Daphne. I look forward to the conversation.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. You've certainly been a support to me both personally and to our organization as well. So if you don't know about Girls Inc., I hope you know a little bit more before we're finished today. And I hope you know a little bit about Boys and Girls Clubs. So we've been around since 1926. We were the Boys Club to begin with, but we got smart in the 90s and became Boys and Girls Club. And we serve young people across Tarrant County. Last year, we served over 28,000. This year looks a lot different for us. And like Jennifer said, we are center-based, but we do also have a lot of locations that are also in shared spaces like schools as well. So as we talk through this, I think you'll probably get a good indication of how organizations are working together and how it's going to take all of us to really help young people kind of do their best through this challenging time. So just a couple of quick statistics to lead us through the conversation, and there are many that we could share, and here's just 3. 34.5% of households with a child 18 and under were food insecure as of late April 2020. And so this is a little bit dated, but if you think about it, that's really 1 out of every 3 households in America was reported to have been food insecure coming through COVID-19. We're seeing unprecedented rates of food insecurity among the young people we served before COVID-19, and coming through coronavirus, we're seeing incredible rates of insecurity, long lines where we're giving out food, families who probably before COVID-19 probably didn't ever see themselves in line to get food. And so this is particularly challenging, both probably to the kitchen cabinet and also to the personal ego of families and parents who always thought that they would be able to provide for their children. And so it's a particularly difficult time for families because that creates a lot of family stress. Also, summer slide. This is something that Jennifer and I will talk more about, but a summer slide is the time, this is a term that we talk about a lot in our work. It's the time during summer when a young person sort of slides back in what they've learned during the school year. We know that summer slide really is much worse for low income families because perhaps a family without as many resources isn't able to provide those enriching experiences as a family with more means. And it doesn't mean they're sitting down and going through school through the summertime, but really enriching activities that can be both fun and engaging, help that brain to stay really engaged, and it helps a young person actually do much better when they return to school the next school year. So as we think about coronavirus, what's happening with young people is really causing that summer slide to become much, much worse. And this third statistic is really more about the power of nonprofits. And I don't think we think about just how powerful nonprofits are in our community and across Texas. There are $300 billion in assets held by Texas nonprofits. That means there's both a huge engine in the economy that rests with our nonprofit community and also a huge solution. So as we think about struggling economy and struggling businesses, we also need to remember that our nonprofits employ a lot of people. Between our two organizations, Jennifer, I know we employ a lot of people and create great opportunities and careers. And this is certainly a big part of the solution moving ahead. Jennifer, anything you want to say before we move ahead?
No, I think that that's fantastic, Daphne. One of the things you and I have talked a lot about is how most nonprofits, including both of ours, began in a time of need in our communities or in our country. And so just really repositioning how we're looking at this time for our families and for our communities, and how this can really be a time of growth, a time of opportunity, not just for our organizations, but for the youth and families that we serve.
Yeah, things are born out of difficulty sometimes, great things. So this is just a graphic, and I hope you can see it on your screen. This is a graphic that actually was shared through the Texas Education Agency, and I like it because I'm a visual person. It helps me understand things better. This is really predicting that summer slide we talked about, and I know, Jennifer, both of our organizations work a lot to sort of reduce that summer slide for kiddos. And this is a prediction about what's going to happen this year as kids are returning to school and what they're likely to face as they come back into the classroom, if they get back into the classroom, or if they're coming back online with virtual school. And as you can see here, there's a big red arrow that I put on here to show sort of what we're looking at. So just to kind of orient you to the graphic, the solid line is what would happen in a normal year. And the very small dotted line is the COVID slide. So this is where educators are predicting kids are going to return to learning right now as school's restarting. And as kids get older, the effect of a summer slide is not as great. But if you think about a third grader, so this is the year, if you've got young kids or if you've been a parent when your kids were younger, third grade is when they're finalizing really their capacity and capability around reading. And it's really critical because at the end of the third grade year, that's when they stop learning to read and use reading to learn. And so this is a really critical point in time. And so if we're losing the opportunity to really help them solidify reading, this will affect their ability to learn any subject as they move ahead. So what we see here is a significant loss of learning coming into the year, far greater than what we would normally see in a typical year. So again, that solid line is what they would normally experience. That small dotted line is what they're projected to experience coming into this school year. That means kids are starting way behind where they normally would. And in our experience, and this has been shown out in research, that young people who come from backgrounds with less access to resources are often much farther behind than their peers, up to a third farther behind than their peers with access to resources. Right. One other graphic here, and Jennifer, I certainly welcome you to chime in here. This one's about math, so it's the same concept. Math is even worse. And so the gap here with the arrow is a little bit bigger. Jennifer, what are you seeing here?
Well, I mean, I think that the academic repercussions are, um, it's you can't argue about it. This is what we will see. They did not finish their last school year, but it's amplified by the social and emotional um, lack of health that our students are going through. So even as they're returning to school virtually, most of them, we are still in a place where our students are struggling. Their mental health is struggling. Their social emotional health is struggling. There's still a lot of fear in their households, whether that's around the food issues or whether it is around employment. There is so much fear for our families right now, and that is just amplified by what our children are feeling. And so they are entering into school. You think about that hierarchy of needs. They are entering into school, and emotionally, they're not ready to learn right now. And so just being sure that we are taking care of their mental health, their emotional health, so that then we can be ready to learn. I think that those factors are going to, even more than we can predict, amplify what our students are going through.
I love what you said, Jennifer, about, not ready to learn. And we know that's the case with a young person. So even if you're not, familiar with doing this work every day, we know this about our own children, right? If they're not, if they're hangry, or if they're, they haven't got
Right.
sleep.
Right. Yeah, and so I mean, this is what we are seeing as we are serving the children through the summer and now transitioning to school year support. We are seeing children that are needing that extra support. They're needing that extra time, and I'm sure Boys and Girls Club is navigating the same things, but traditionally we've served the youth. But now we see it's the entire family that's needing the support to be ready to learn.
Yeah, we have definitely seen the same thing. We've served over 141,000 meals since the pandemic started. And to your point, exactly, unless you tackle this as a holistic issue for the family, you really won't be able to help the child.
Right. One question you mentioned meals. One question that I've received from a lot of people is, we have the food bank. What are we duplicating services with Girls Inc. and Boys and Girls Club has just done such a phenomenal job from the jump, serving those families with food. And what we have found at Girls Inc. is that there's that trust between families. When we've developed that trust, many of our families are afraid to seek out resources from places that they're not familiar with, from people that they don't have relationships with. And so it's so important, like you said, to provide that comprehensive services for the families.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're going to move ahead here and talk a little bit with John Rosales from our team here at Boys and Girls Club, and get a frontline account of how part of our response and our strategy to meet needs is going. So Jennifer, like you, we've opened up learning centers, and these centers are meant to sort of address all these issues head on, right? Help the parents, help the family, help address the learning loss. And so as we know, in Tarrant County, schools are opening up on different schedules. This is a little bit difficult for families to navigate. It's difficult for employers to navigate. But we know we need to be active in opening up safely. We've reduced capacity. All of the providers have done a really good job of working together, sharing best practices, and we're reopening our clubs and our centers to make sure that families have a place to go if they need to get to work. And so we're going to hear from John Rosales. He's going to tell us a little bit more about our learning centers here at Boys and Girls Club. And we have opened. So as you know, Arlington ISD is open and open virtually for learning. And so we do have 4 centers currently open at Boys and Girls Club, with a couple more to open still. And Jennifer, I think you've got a location opening soon, correct? Yes, okay.
We do, in Arlington.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, so John, I think you're on the line.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, we'd love to hear from you, just to kind of hear a little bit more. Tell us, how is a learning center working at a Boys and Girls Club?
Sure, yeah. So, very quickly when we decided to, kind of go this direction for our learning centers, we, started working on a lot of the logistics part of it and making sure that our spaces, we're going to be ready to create the right environment, have the right learning ecosystem for our members to come in. And so, a lot of the building layout was important. And then once we got the kids in the building, it actually, a lot of it started happening very organically. Wasn't without its hiccups the first couple of days based on learning all the technology and working with the school districts. And as I was walking through the buildings in the first 2 days, I would see staff members on the phone with, the reception desk at certain schools and connecting with teachers and trying to, and parents for that matter, and getting logins, all those technical things you would expect, they all happened and they were there. And but because we had the staff to provide that adult support and make those connections, it wasn't a second grader trying to navigate this by themselves. And so it looked a lot like what you expect. And once we got things rolling, may have 9 kids in a room, all at their own table with their Chromebooks or their iPads or their laptops, whatever the mobile device that was issued to them, or it may have been one of our devices that we loaned and we set up very quickly with all of the platforms, the Canvas and the blackboards and the whatever the platforms are for that grade level. And we learned that school to school and grade to grade and district to district was going to be very different, and how some of the things were being facilitated. And so we were just learning very, very quickly with them and with the parents and with the kids. And, the kids are adapting very, very well. I've noticed that they are, I worried a little bit. They're in a Boys and Girls Club. Would they be able to stay focused? But I think because we intentionally made sure that our spaces were designed for academics within mind. And so, if we were in a room that typically was a teen center, but we laid it out differently to be more of a classroom setting, they fell right into it, and they're learning, and I think probably better than they would if they were at their kitchen table or on their sofa, with their device. And so, our buildings has been a great asset, and our staff's willingness and their ability to learn these platforms very quickly have been huge assets in our ability to provide this service. So just been really thrilled and walking around and witnessing learning happening. And there's stories that I've heard and I've witnessed just from when you talk about the learning loss and the slide. We've had parents come to us and say, a lot of these are returning members that we know when they came to us a year ago were already a year behind. They were held back a year, and then they were brought to the Boys and Girls Club by their parents or maybe through another referral. And when we were able to connect with these families and say, hey, we're going to provide this learning center. We don't have all the answers, but we're going to be there and we're going to learn. And the level of support we got from the parents that were really scared. They were afraid of what was in front of them. And, they knew that their child was going to struggle, and the fact that we were going to be there to help them gave them some reassurances. I guess there's that part of it, the academic side that the parents were really apprehensive about. They were unsure. They didn't know how to navigate it. But then there was just some of the anecdotal stories that were coming to us very quickly, that they were ready to quit their jobs. They were going to have to resign their positions. They were trying to figure out how they could navigate their schedules, and were asking for shift changes at work. And the moment we told them, here's our hours, here's what we're going to be able to provide, it opened up a lot of doors for them, at the very least, not needing to uproot their work lives and things of that nature. And so, the response has been really good, really positive. A lot of text messages and emails. Thank you. This is a lifesaver. I'm able to keep my job. I didn't know how I was going to be able to support my kid through this. I don't know how to navigate this. So it's been good, been really, really positive, and the kids are enjoying it. They are telling us they'd much more prefer this than actually being at home. And they get excited. Our staff have developed what they're calling brain breaks. So there's a lot of schedules they have to navigate, and they have them posted all over their rooms with the groups that they're in. And so they know when this child has a break, they give them these brain breaks, and they send them to a game room, to a gym where they get some physical fitness and exercise. And those are things that they would not be able to have if they were at home. No one has gyms at their houses. They don't have game rooms at their houses. And so we're able to, again, our buildings are a huge asset for us.
That's great, John. And I know you've had a lot of challenges to overcome, and your team has just done a phenomenal job of overcoming those challenges. Any stories about any kids in particular that you have noticed have had either really great success or any interesting challenges they've had to overcome?
Yeah, a couple, there's a lot, but a couple probably that are just really impactful is when I think about, there's a family at Main Branch that, Missy Selly, the branch director there, was reaching out to families that she just knew probably needed this help, and they didn't know we were there yet. And one of them was a migrant family that came to Main Branch earlier in this calendar year, and they hadn't even enrolled their kids yet. There's language barriers. They didn't know how to navigate the enrollment process, and Yeseli and her team were able to help them navigate, get them enrolled. They were 3 days behind already, because by the time we called them, we were already 3 days into the Learning Center program. They were able to get them enrolled in their school, connect them with that staff, and then we were able to get them caught up. We could connect with the teachers. What did we miss? What can we do? We had enough staff there that spoke Spanish that were able to overcome some of those barriers with them. And there's the COVID slide, and then there's the barriers for the language barrier that could really, really have hurt them. But the fact that we were able to, just like Jennifer said, we're able to support the kids, but able to support the family too, and help that mom navigate that. And there's another high schooler at East Branch that I ran into checking in there, and I just asked him, how do you feel about this? How do you like it? He actually preferred it. The pressures of high school, the stresses, the peer pressures. He said this is his format, the self-paced learning almost, and the ability that he can just focus on that, but then he has us there. And I didn't even really think about that as some of the pressures that, our especially our intermediate and high school members have. And so that was really kind of important to me to think that he felt so much more comfortable to get his work done and learning in our environment that we're creating. But also, just a couple of the younger kids, when I check with them, how excited they are for the brain breaks. That was the thing. That's in our lexicon now in our learning centers, the brain breaks. And so they need that too. They need those moments, and sometimes they're only 10, 15 minutes long. But the schools have been able to build a very robust system, over the summer, and it's a lot of work. And so we're just able to, it's a lot of work anyways, but then there's just the stresses of doing things new. And so the fact that we're able to give them those breaks and kind of decompress for 10, 15 minutes so that they can get back into some intense virtual learning, I think is going to help them. It's going to help them with their academics, and it's going to help them be more productive during those intense periods of time that they're in these sessions. So we've had to learn very quickly with the synchronous and asynchronous learning and how we can support that. And the kids are more than willing to come to us and say, I don't know how to do this. And the fact that they have someone there that's in the room, or multiple staff in the room, they're saying that that's helping them, and they appreciate it. But yeah, I think those two stories really resonated with me, with that high schooler and that family that wasn't even enrolled yet. And who knows when they would have gotten enrolled had we not been able to be there to support them.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There are a lot of opportunities for kids to fall through the cracks right now. So, and we didn't really mention this, but it kind of goes without saying, I guess, right now in my mind, but it probably does need to be stated. This young man in the photo here, he's got his face mask on. There are a lot of precautions that we're taking to keep kids safe, even though We are open. We have social distancing, individual workstations, temperatures are taken, a lot of restrictions right now. So, we certainly want to keep people safe even though we're coming together. Jennifer, I noticed you came off mute.
Well, yeah, I'm hearing John talk. I just wanted to stand up and cheer. It just makes me so excited to know that we are giving our kids a leg up. Not only are we just, giving them the ability to function within this virtual learning space, but the students participating in these learning centers, they actually have a leg up right now. They have support services that have direct contact with their school districts to ask those questions, to figure it out, the technical issues that are going on. And then they have that synergy of safely being around their peers. And so just thank you for sharing, John. It just is inspiring to me to see the impact that's being made at our virtual learning centers.
Absolutely. I think you're going to find the same once you get a chance to experience it and be in these rooms and feel it and feel that inspiration.
All right. So now, if there are any questions or thoughts from the audience, we certainly welcome you to come off mute. We have some experts here for you to, ask a question or present an idea. So if you have a question, we'd love to hear from you.
Hey, Daphne, this is Alfredo.
Hey, Alfredo.
How are you?
Good.
Jennifer, quick question. I'm assuming you guys also have a board of directors.
We do.
And how big is that board?
So our board is 15 members, and I actually see one of our board members on here, Kathleen Bryant. But yes, we are blessed to have a very active and strong board.
Daphne, have we ever thought about maybe having a joint board meeting in the future? Once COVID gets out of the way, of course.
That's a great idea. I think especially on these kinds of topics too, like being able to think about shared learnings and opportunities to partner even as we're moving ahead. And I'm not sure we even have to wait for COVID to be over. With technology like this, I think there's great opportunity for that.
Okay, perfect. That's all my good questions for the day. I'm done.
Thank you, Alfredo.
You're welcome.
Good idea. Any other thoughts or questions? Well, I would encourage you to break in here. We've got only a couple more topics to go through, but if you've got a question, you can use the chat feature because sometimes speaking out in these formats can be a little bit nerve-wracking. So if you have a question, certainly use the chat feature. We're also going to give you some ways to contact me and Jennifer before we're finished here. If you've got a question later on and you want to follow up with us, you certainly can. So what's ahead for our community? And this is, it's hard to predict the future right now. If COVID has done anything, it's humbled my ability to future tell, and be able to know what's ahead. So it's hard to know what's ahead. However, one thing that I would say that's ahead for our young people, unfortunately, is probably more challenges. And, one of the challenges that young people, I think, will face in the classroom is probably some more unpredictability. So whether or not our young people are able to return to the classroom sooner than later is not really something that I think any of us can predict, but that the fact that it's a little unpredictable is probably part of the challenge. And my personal viewpoint is that as we move through the winter time and into the next year, I think the systems that support young people, nonprofits and other partners too, including the schools, may face increased challenges, as there's probably going to be increased challenges to our economy. If you think about how many partners it takes to make a strong nonprofit, the corporate community, the foundation community, and individuals, it truly takes a village to solve these complex problems for young people. And we're challenged everywhere right now. We're challenged in every corner of our universe. And so I think there are going to be some challenges that we face on the bright side, and there is definitely a bright side. I think about you, Jennifer, and I think about how our organizations have come together with lots of other providers like ours over the last 6 months to solve problems. And I am absolutely confident that Tarrant County has great leaders, great boards, really committed and passionate people who will fight to make sure that young people have the opportunities as much as possible. I know, just speaking for our partners, that where there are dollars, they are fighting to get it to our, to us and through our doors. And so that encourages me. That gives me faith that this may be, there may be some dark days and a long road ahead, but I know that that together, working together, we'll be able to see it through. Jennifer, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to echo a lot of what you've already said. I think that right now we're still in a response to the emergency that's occurring in our community and in our nation. However, I think that what is going on today will mark the future for, if not the next, or maybe not even just the next decade, but throughout this current generation's schooling and teen years and young adult. I think we're going to be responsive to the impact that these months have had, because not just academically, social and emotionally, mental health, I think that we're going to continue to see those impacts roll out long after we have a vaccine or the health crisis has passed. However, echoing what you've said, I don't think we could be in a better community to respond to those impacts. We are in a community that advocates for our youth and our young adults. We are in a community that has lots of resources that most are not afraid to share and want the best for our community at large. And we're in a community that loves to collaborate, not just our nonprofits, but our corporations collaborating with nonprofits, our school districts collaborating with each other. I've been so proud of how they've responded and consulted one another together to present a united message and to learn from each other, and how they coordinate with nonprofits also. So while I think we have hard times ahead, there will be lots of impacts to respond to. I'm really confident in the teams that we'll be doing this work with.
I appreciate that response. Particularly, I want to echo the mental health challenge that you're seeing, Jennifer. So mental health issues take a little bit of time, right, to percolate up to the surface. And that will be particularly challenging for our kids, because those challenges may come forward with their parents, for example. And that can create a really difficult situation in the home. And if kids aren't in the school or at a club or at a Girls Inc. program, that's not necessarily going to be something that the community can help them with immediately. So definitely want to echo those potential issues coming up as well. All right, so definitely want to make sure that anybody who's maybe watching this live or recorded, we hope you've had a chance to learn a little bit and certainly share this. We'll make this available on our channels, and Jennifer, I'm sure you will too. I hope I got this information right up here, Jennifer.
It's
if there are any corrections, we can fix it. So the website, and I shamelessly am going to say, go to the website and give money, figure out how to follow Girls Inc. On Facebook and Twitter, figure out how you can get engaged with this great organization. And then also, Jennifer, I've shamelessly shared your contact phone numbers here.
That's perfect.
I'm sure you would welcome a phone call from anybody right now who wants to learn more about Girls.
That second number is my cell phone number, and just being times what they are, that's probably where you're going to be able to catch me the fastest.
Okay, so 817, if we have anybody not looking at the screen, 817-319-5571. That's the best number. That's 319-5571 to reach Jennifer. All right, and also Boys and Girls Club information is on the screen. I'm pretty easy to find because I've got a weird name. Daphne, if you just Google that and put Boys and Girls Club in, you'll probably find me online. We have put up our social pages. Everything is BGC GTC, pretty much on any social media sites. That's Boys, Girls Clubs, Greater Tarrant County. That's what it stands for. I always get that question, like, what's all with the letters? My kids think it's a crazy name. And then, of course, we welcome I welcome you to follow us, stay in touch with what we're doing. Of course, we welcome you to give to the organization. There is no gift too small, and we certainly want you to get engaged with us as much as possible. And we also welcome ideas, thoughts, questions. Like Jennifer and I have talked about today, this is something that we need a lot of coordination, collaboration, ideas, thoughts, creativity as we move through these challenging times. It will take a village, and regardless of where you think you sit on that spectrum of the village, you're part of that, and we need you. So we thank you for your time. Thank you for spending these 37 minutes with us, learning more about our organizations and about how we're responding to make sure kids are having a great start to their school year. Definitely reach out if you ever want to learn more. Thank you, Jennifer, for joining me today. I appreciate you, your friendship, all the good work that Girls Inc. is doing.
Oh, thank you, Daphne. It's nice to have a partner to figure this all out with and to serve our community.
Isn't it?
Yes.
And John, I want to say thank you to you. Kudos again to you and the whole team here as they're working to serve young people. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a happy Friday.
Bye-bye.